Welcome to a new episode of the Elevate podcast. Today live from Cologne, from the beautiful apartment of my beautiful friend, Claudia Dalchow. It's interesting to pronounce that one in English. How would you pronounce your name in English?
Dalchow, still. Same name.
Same name, Dalchow? Okay.
Same name, different language.
Where's the name coming from?
Well, the eastern part of Germany, which used to be Germany, which is now Poland.
Okay, makes a lot of sense, but we are in Cologne and it's Christmas time, as you can see in the background. We still have a beautiful Christmas tree over here, and it's the 27th of December.
Yes.
We just met again like 3 days ago.
So nice.
For a quick
Dubai
meetup.
in the house.
For a quick meetup. And we decided, hey, let's record that podcast.
Yay.
As you're a very interesting personality.
Thank you very much.
I would like to talk a little bit about what you are doing, what you have done in the past. You've been at one of our events as a keynote speaker with a very interesting topic.
Yes.
Let's do it quick. Introduce yourself.
Where to begin? Okay, so my name is Claudia Dalchow. I am an actress, speaker, coach, and so many more things. But mainly the focus is on acting and on coaching, and the main focus in coaching is on body language, which is my favorite topic. Which
was the topic you've taught some of our guys.
Yes.
Which was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned you're an actress. I know that you do a lot of theater, you do film, you do movies.
TV.
Yes. Recently, I've seen you as a bump.
Yeah, well, homeless person.
That was a funny one.
Yeah.
Everybody was shocked when they've seen you on Facebook. You're like, what happened to Claudia?
Yeah, they did not expect that. It's not the role that you would usually expect me to play, because I'm like the girl with the nice hair and the lipstick, and then you see me as a homeless person. So yeah, a lot of people were thinking like, is there a catastrophe that we didn't see coming? Nope, it was just a role. I found it very interesting. Good contrast.
Looked great. Do me a favor and pull the microphone a little bit closer, please.
Yes, like so.
There we go. Yeah, it is a dynamic microphone, and they react a little bit different than the ones you're used to from filming. Exactly. That's the voice you can do. You do voice acting as well, right?
Yes, I do voiceover and dubbing work. So if you watch Netflix or some Amazon Prime, whatever, you could hear my German voice for some English TV series.
Do you have a special character you usually...
No, I'm not like the voice of a specific actor, but yeah, I do a lot of different things, including things like anime and cartoons, which is always most fun because you can change your voice into like different genres and yeah.
And a lot of yelling and screaming.
The yelling and the screaming was in Called the Midwife, which is a series about, midwives and women who, are pregnant and get children. And there was a lot of yelling and crying because they're all sick and all poor and yeah. So
that must be fun.
It was, I think in a weird way it was, yeah.
That would be something I could imagine to do. Like if I wouldn't do what I do, maybe we could be I could read audiobooks or be a voice actor.
Well, knowing you can do it all. So
thank you very much. I just would get bored too quickly, and then I need to change something.
Exactly. So this is what I do. I always have like a million different things going on, so I never get bored.
That's a cool thing when you're an actor, right?
Yeah.
So if you're bored of your character, just switch it around.
Well, you cannot exactly switch the character around, but soon enough, the next role or the next engagement will come along, and then you will have some new challenges and things to do. Or you create your own projects. Like, I don't know if the camera catches, a big red dress behind you. It's a project around Alice in Wonderland.
Let me show that.
Yeah.
So basically, 1 second. I need to take this one off here for a second.
So there is a ginormous red queen dress standing behind you, and it is from a project themed Alice in Wonderland, which is something that I do with 2 chefs, and they cook a 7-course dinner themed to Alice in Wonderland, and in between the 7 courses, I do a 6-part reading of the original text by Lewis Carroll in costumes. So as Alice, as the Mad Hatter, and as the Red Queen, and I made all those costumes myself. So if you need some...
You yourself?
Yeah.
Crazy.
So yeah, it was just a mad idea that we all 3 had. And when they said Alice in, I'm like, before you even finish, it's a yes, because it's one of my favorite stories ever. And it's so mad and so fantastic. And making these costumes was just the biggest fun in the world.
So when you went off school, like, the number one thing was like, I become an actress? Or
no, not at all. Actually, I studied graphic design and I was an art director for a few years. But that became boring really quick because the whole advertising, brunch was not for me at all because, I don't know, people were stealing each other's ideas and taking drugs and all that. I'm like, ugh, no. And then acting came along like a blessing from heaven. And really, it almost felt like it fell into my lap, which it didn't, because I had been taking acting classes during my design studies. And then the first role that I got to play was a double lead role in a theater play, and that generated 23 press articles and a nomination as the best newcomer actress of the season, nominated by the theater critics of that year. And then it was a 1-minute decision. Okay, if this goes that way, then I'm going to do this from now on.
But did you do a proper training, education, or?
Yeah, I mean, I had, just because I wanted to, I just had acting classes 4 times a week, up to 10, 12 hours, during my design studies. And I surely missed a semester or 2 just because I was acting more than I was doing design. I love design, but acting much more.
Cool. And so then you kind of tumbled into it. So you started theater.
Yeah.
So you got that role, and then
Yes.
you just got more offers, or do you still went to auditions?
Well, actually, after this specific role and after everything that came after that, all the nice reviews. Now I don't hear myself anymore. No, I do. I took the money that I had made as an art director and went to the United States, and I did some proper on-camera training for weeks on end in a class of 3. So usually, if you're lucky, here in Cologne, I don't know, you will get a class with 10, 12, 15 people, and you will have camera acting maybe, 3-4 times a week if you're really in a school that is specifically designed to do this. But in Los Angeles, I had it every day, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of just camera acting with just 2 or 3 people in class. And then in the evening, a bigger class with the people from LA. So it was a really luxurious experience, and I learned very, very much. I was there for 4 weeks and then for another 3 weeks. And then I had an idea of how that worked. And when I came back to Cologne, the teacher that I then studied with in Cologne and I wrote a book about camera acting, and that gave me even more insight. And from there, my interest shifted, well, not shifted, but became much bigger in body language, because that was one part of the book, and that was something that fascinated me so much, and that has become my new favorite thing.
So you learn always best when you teach, right?
Yes.
Cool. And I mean, it's super interesting just to hear all that. And for me, as a newbie, let's say, call like that, what's the difference between theater or normal acting and camera acting?
Very, very simple. Space. If you're in the theater, the stage is somewhere and the audience is clearly somewhere else. And so there is at least, a meter or 2, even if it's a very, very small theater, between you and the eyes of the people who see you. If you're doing camera acting, the camera is here and the microphone is there, in your face, and it can see you think. If you are in a very close-up, in a detail shot, you're not allowed to blink, because if you blink your eyes and you imagine that on a cinema screen, it is like 2 garage doors crashing down. So everything is much closer. You cannot move so much if you're in a close-up, but you have to convey the same kind of emotion, of intensity, and still at the same time be in complete control of what is the angle, what shot are we doing? Is it a master shot where there's a lot of space around you, or are you really close where you basically can't move at all? But the intensity has to be the same. So it's very technical, and at the same time, if you get it right, it's really nice.
And HD did not make it better, did it?
No, it did not. I don't even know why people do this to themselves. The whole magic has just vanished. I don't like it at all. You see every little pore, and ugh.
I mean, it's good for the makeup industry.
Yeah, well, but I don't know. For me, it has taken a little bit away from the magic. I love watching those really old movies from the 50s, even the hand colorized ones where it's almost like a painting. It's more magical for me.
And how did you start the whole body language thing?
Well, it was a big chapter of the book that I co-authored. And I found it so interesting, because what people are not aware of is that 93% of communication is nonverbal. People always say okay, body language is 60, 70% maybe. No, it's more than that, because the way that you breathe, the tone of your voice, your inner pace, like how fast your thoughts are, and then your outer pace, like how fast or slow your movements are. All that is body and not just the mere spoken information in your words. It's just the smallest part. And people are so unaware of it, especially if you give a presentation or if you talk to a customer or whatever it may be, or if you are on stage, obviously, or in front of a camera, you need to know how these things work if you want to be really successful in anything, basically.
Which is very interesting, because that was my next question. I just prepared in my mind already. So
Telepathy.
how can someone take advantage of learning body language? In which aspects of life?
Every aspect of life. Honestly, it doesn't matter if you are a business person or if you are a parent communicating with your child. Like the tone of your voice and your posture. Are you talking down on somebody or are you going on eye level? Like, how do you create eye level at all? How do you keep people engaged? How do you see, for example, my favorite example, if you're in a negotiation and there is this one moment where you drop this super special offer, and the person may have not moved their body, but if they like it, you will see their pupils dilate, which is a sign of, well, arousal or interest. And those are just minute little things, like also everything that goes on in the face, even the smallest movements are so interesting to watch. Or if a person suddenly shifts in their seat just a little bit when you say something, how do you establish baseline? For example, if you have if you are interviewing a person for a certain position and you see that they are super nervous and they're kind of clenching their hands to the seat, like the first thing you need to do is what we call establish baseline, is to calm them down by talking about the weather or about some banal thing. And then from there, you can have a conversation, because before that, you will not get any information out of them that will make any sense to are they good for the position or not? So there are a million ways.
So it's actually, you can talk about body language from two perspectives. You can start reading it.
Yes.
And you can start applying it yourself.
Exactly.
to send some signals out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, if you are on a big stage and you want to really get in contact with your audience, you can't do what a lot of people do, which is just walk up and down without basically looking at the audience. I've seen so many people just walk. They're just pacing up and down, and it's not nice because the people don't even feel like
you call it the tiger.
Yes, the tigering around on stage is not pretty unless you give people a chance to see you and to feel you, which means you have to stop, pause, position yourself, really look at somebody and then at somebody else. I'm touching the microphone. I shouldn't be doing that.
Oh,
no. Boom. And also, some people do what I call parking themselves on stage. So they are like one leg standing and the other one relaxed, so kind of just parking position. Or they stand super upright and tight like a soldier, and none of that is really sexy. What is way more effective in terms of stage presence is if you are straight and like with wearing your little crown and very upright, but then you just lean in just a little bit, and so your heart is a tiny bit closer to the audience. I know it sounds very, very esoteric and hoo-ha, but if you try it out, leaning in just a little bit, you can feel the energy of the audience, like you almost bounce off of it, and then you have a much better connection.
But would you say it's something people really need to learn? Or
yes,
because for me, for example, I remember when I've been on stage the first time, that was horrible because I didn't know how to behave. I had my hands like Angela Merkel in front of my, that.
Yeah.
So I was like super nervous, and I just didn't feel comfortable. But now it became so natural that I feel like home on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always room for improvement. No doubt about that. But
the thing with you, first of all, you to me are a natural. You are a natural performer, always have been, always will be. So you have this thing where you just like to be with people and perform in front of people. So not everybody has that. Even if you are a little shy, but you feel in your heart that you have a message that somebody needs to hear, then the technique is really helping you. And even if you are a natural and you have like this impact, but you want to make, for example, some specific accent, or you want to stress one specific moment where you really want to get them, like even more so than you already do, then knowing how to pause and then when to drop that specific line with this specific gesture can even enhance what you are already doing.
I mean, things which are very common, which for me also feel natural, is if you have, let's say, like a very deep a topic or something where you really want to go on eye level, like sitting down.
Yeah.
So to really go on eye level with people, even on stage, sitting on the corner of the stage or something.
Yeah, there's a million things that you can do. I mean, this could go on for like 24 hours and we wouldn't even touch upon all the little things that you can do. It can be one gesture or one moment where you look down and then up again, or even how you turn your head on stage makes such a difference. Because, for example, a shy person will kind of go with their eyes to a certain direction first and then the head follows. Whereas if you are deliberately moving around on stage, then you will just turn with your entire head and your entire body like you own the space, that you don't have this feeling that you kind of have to look over your shoulder to check if it's okay that I go there, which is something that you see in people who are a little insecure on stage all the time. It's like almost they check if it's okay to go over there, where a secure person knows it's my space, I move wherever I want. And there is also even the direction of your feet makes such a difference, because you can either include your audience or exclude parts of it. And even that can be used as an effect, knowing when to do what. And there are also movements with your feet that in a negotiation, for example, you can do under the table that the other person won't even notice because they're not looking under the table unless you drop something. But then you can do something that will then reflect into the conversation, which sounds unbelievable, but it is true. And then there's a million ways to, give certain, give more impact to something that you want to say. And I know it sounds a little bit like manipulation, but then again, what isn't? Because if you watch TV or watch some kind of advertising, you are being manipulated all day, every day. And of course, you can use NLP in a black magic kind of way or like in a positive kind of way. And it's the same with body language. It always depends on your intention, what you do with it.
Yesterday was so crazy because we went to see the movie Jumanji, the new one.
Yes.
Which was amazing. But we were shocked on what kind of advertisements were running and trying to figure out what's the audience usually going to that movie.
Yeah.
Because the first 4 were all about cars and vans, like family stuff. And then suddenly there's a new advertising from Seat.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
No.
I was feeling ashamed a little bit, and I don't want to make any political statement here. But basically it starts that like some girlish, mannish, you cannot really tell, says, if I would define generation 2020, my number one word would be diverse. And then you see all those kinds of...
Really?
Yeah,
That's so 1990, but okay.
It really looked like Love Parade or something. And they were all like dressed up super weird. And then it was a car thing. And I was like, man, I would never buy that car after seeing that advertisement. But I mean, when they produced that advertisement specifically for those kind of movies, there must be some... I don't know, some very smart person knows exactly what kind of audience is watching those kind of movies.
Probably, yeah.
Regarding manipulation, right?
Yeah.
That's why I was just thinking of it. Everything is manipulation.
Yeah. And then again, for body language, certainly for me, it is about how to connect better and more effectively. Because also you're like, when you... I don't know if you guys know these kinds of TV series things. I only watch them when I'm in the gym, where it's called something first date. So you put 2 people who don't know each other in a restaurant in a first date kind of situation, and then they're sitting there like all shy and awkward, and then sometimes you will see that there's a real connection, and then it's so fun because I often watch it without any sound. And then later, I only put the sound back on when they have their little interview together as to, are they going to have another date, yes or no? And knowing how to read body language, of course, I'm always right about knowing, okay, these two are really into each other. These two only want to go to bed with each other. Here, the guy is into her, but she isn't into him. You can see it all. And it connects you to people so much more. And I mean, in any business right now, there is only one thing that you can never substitute with a computer or a machine, and that is real human connection. And in 2020, it's going to become like even more evident that anything that can be computerized or automated will be. Even like driving a train or driving a bus, you can automatize that. Like you can put some machine in the front that will start and stop the engine if it has to. But a connection...
And just working in Paris since whatever, 20
yeah,
years.
Exactly. And it's going to become more and more. And like even shop systems, I mean, who really goes to a shop if they don't have to? You can order anything home. But a real human connection, eye to eye, or like body language to body language, you can never computerize that. Even with artificial intelligence, it's never going to be the same thing. So if you're good at that, you have like a one over every person who doesn't know what this is about.
Which also leads to emotion, right? Because body language is connected to emotion.
Completely.
And I think so many things are just subconscious. And I don't know if that still like refers back to when we were living in tribes.
Absolutely.
Does it?
Yes, it does.
Because
we all still have the same primal brain that we share like with dinosaurs and chickens. There is a part of our brain that I call the old brain, like the primal brain, and the primal reactions. Those are the best ones to watch because those are always honest and real time. So for example, if you tell somebody like, oh, I don't think it's going to be a problem for you if you are working through Friday night and then maybe the entire weekend, the little twitch that comes in the eyes before they then remember that they need to be social and polite with you, you will know what their real reaction is. And primal reactions also they're like this child-like reaction that you have. Like, for example, you see something nice and you go like, quick. That is a primal reaction. If you see those that...
And you see girls which haven't seen each other for like half a year, jumping up and down, screaming.
Yeah, or if a guy sees that super nice car and knows that he can't afford it, or like the sparkle that comes in the eyes. And if it's real time, if it's a quick reaction to something that you just saw, you can always tell that that is the truth because primal reactions are real. It's only the neocortex, like the newer part of the brain, that can lie and that can make up things. For example, if that one person from the office calls that you don't like to talk to, this part of the brain can say, okay, tell them I'm not there. Tell them I'm in a meeting. The primal brain can't do that. The primal brain is always honest and it's real-time reactions. It doesn't have time to make stuff up because if that tiger comes, you need to run now before thinking about it. And knowing this, also how to read it, is super helpful as well.
What about those people, especially here in Cologne, you see them very often, if we talk about primal behavior?
Yes.
Like those people who usually tuck down their head, looking up with their eyes, trying to look dangerous. Those kind of people which are look so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's also kind of, they try to, with their body language, they try to intimidate people, right?
Yeah, they try to impress each other, definitely.
Yeah. But each other or other people?
Well, you would have to ask them, but probably both, I guess. It's like the typical guy with this really, really broad neck that you see coming out of a fitness studio at the other end of town, and then they're like, oh, Brudi, was good? I don't know, what's going on, bro? But the thing is, knowing that, it's different kinds of people have different kinds of codes of body language. It's the same thing if you have the typical, I would call her the blogger or influencer girl who will always tilt her head a little bit and twirl her hair and have this super cute voice. And if you like my content, then it would be super nice if you could like it. And, that whole thing.
The big eyes, I would call it the baby scheme.
Exactly. So every type of person has their specific code. And that is also something that you need to take into account because you cannot separate body language from the person because every person has a certain set of habits and things that they do even culturally so. Like certain hand movements in our culture, you can do them. Doesn't matter. Here it means hard rock. In Italy, it means like somebody other than you was in bed with your wife. And it's like, you have to know what's what here. But
which happens pretty regularly in Italy. No, but
I don't know, but but it's like you have to be aware of what is cultural. For example, you and I are both very expressive people, so you can read us like an open book. If you're in Japan, for example, then you have to know that very expressive movements of the face or of the body are considered impolite, or like, and you even have to know in which angle to bow. So it's either 15 degrees or 30 degrees or 45 degrees, depending on the hierarchical level of the person that you're greeting. And so it's a whole code. In the Arabic world, for example, men will kiss each other on the cheeks, greeting each other, like men, women.
Sometimes hold hand.
Like,
even with the fingers and walking through the mall.
Yeah, like that. But
guys.
like you will not see like men kissing like a lady that they just met on the cheeks. It's like unthinkable. Then again, if you are in South America, people will not kiss you less than 4 times on each cheek. Like it just doesn't end. So cultural body language things are also super interesting to look at.
I love the Indian head movement, which really nobody can explain. It's so funny. I have so many Indian friends. They don't do it. Exactly like that, shaky from left to right. And I always ask them, man, so what does it mean? And lately we had like 2 guys at our house. And they were helping us out, 2 laborers. And we asked them, do you want coffee? And the first one like tucked his head from left to right. And the second one does the same thing. And so one meant yes, the other one meant no, but we really could not tell. So he just brought the coffee and one took it and the other didn't. But it's super interesting how, because it's called language, right? Body language.
It is.
And there's different languages all around the world.
Yeah.
So can you learn different languages? I mean, you can learn the aspects of as you just said, like the Japanese, like some things, but can you really learn how to behave like local in a different country? Well,
I think you can. The thing is you cannot study it from the outside. You cannot learn it from a book or from a video. You just have to live there, So I had the opportunity to, for example, spend a month in Spain, or a month in France, or a month in Los Angeles, or a month anywhere. So then if you are there really with the people and you live with them and you live with locals and not in some hotel, then after a while, certainly. I mean, if you have eyes to see and are interested in that, then certainly you can learn that.
I could never imagine talk like an Italian. Like throwing my hands around.
You cannot imagine talking like an Italian. I don't understand. I think you're the first person who could do that.
Like an Italian. Don't forget the E at the end.
See, you're doing it.
Exactly. No, that's what you have to do. I think so. If you start speaking like that, and you need to, if you're in the role, like in the
it's
character.
Called like how to embody a certain character. Yeah. It's fun. I mean, after all, it's really also just good fun, because it's also like there is this native Indian proverb that says you cannot really know, like I'm paraphrasing, what is going on in a person if you haven't walked a mile in their shoes or in their moccasins or something like that. So if you really manage to embody another character or another person, then you can really feel what's going on with them. And I remember my very, very first acting teacher had this glorious exercise where he made us walk, I mean discreetly so, but walk behind a person in the street and just try to copy the way that they walk, like the exact pace, how they position their feet, how their head is held, how their shoulders are, and then bring that movement back to class, copy it there, and then come up with a story that might be going on in the head of this person, which is probably not accurate, but it could be. Because you see, for example, in Germany, there is a lot of shoulders that are very forward and heads a little bent. Whereas if you're in Spain, people walk way more upright and way more like presenting themselves and, having more fun. And it's a cultural thing. It's a historical thing. But with a certain posture come certain kinds of thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Talking about body language,
yes.
There's one super interesting thing I've seen, because you just mentioned that like copying people and you will behave like them or kind of feel what they feel. There was an experiment they've done was actually a gang who robbed people.
Yes.
And they put a person behind, I don't know how you call it, where you only see the shadow,
Yeah.
like a shadow wall or something.
Yeah.
And they just let different people walking by.
Yeah.
So they couldn't even tell. They have only seen the body language.
Yes.
And I would say, we robbed that one.
Yeah.
Because he looks
Yes.
like we can rob him.
Yes.
And it was always the guy afterwards to ask him, did anything happen in your life? He said, yeah, I got robbed a few times already.
Yeah. Yeah. It really, the thing is, for example, if you walk with your shoulders to the front and if with your head a little bit more between your shoulders instead of like proud and upright and like sure of yourself, then you are really, first of all, your primal brain will trigger an emotion that is more like fearful. And it's a biochemical process, because what we call, like, I don't know if that is even an English word, but I think it is cowering, like when you are like really making yourself small. It's what animals do at the front, like when they are by a water hole and they don't know, like, if there is a wild bird chasing them from above or if there is something behind them that might bite them and kill them. So you are always like a little bit small and looking left and right. And if you exude this kind of energy, first of all, your own body will create pour certain hormones in your blood that will make you feel more fearful. And then that energy will exude from you, and a person will get from you more of a quote unquote victim vibe. And they will know that, well, you will probably not fight, or you will probably, do whatever they want from you. Whereas if you walk really sure of yourself, like upright, strong, with your open chest, like, fully aware that something might come at you, but you're ready for it, then they will think twice before they attack you. And it is really an energetical field that surrounds you. It's hard to explain, but you can just try it for yourself. Like walk with your shoulders up in front, and then see what kind of feelings and what kind of thoughts come up, and then put them back and your head upright, and then see what feelings and thoughts come to your mind then, because your body will react to it.
What would you say is the biological explanation? You just mentioned, let's say you're an animal, you're sitting down by the water hole.
Yeah.
Why would you be fearful if you know there's danger around?
Yeah.
Why would you tuck in everything instead of like being, hey, you have a problem? Come get me and let's fight.
Well, I was just in Namibia, and I can tell you this. If a zebra and a lion are somewhere, then, the zebra will either run or it will, they are not the ones who will make themselves small, but there are other animals who will just make themselves small so they cannot be seen, because you don't stand a chance. There was for example, there was one zebra that was hit in the belly by the horn of a rhinoceros. So there are animals that are just bigger than you. So you have to watch out where you're going, or you will literally be killed.
Have you ever seen that video from the rhino which throws around the car?
I haven't seen that, but when I was in Namibia, there was a rhino that was thrown around by an elephant, like by the teeth, and killed, unfortunately.
It's crazy.
And it was because these animals have so much power. And of course, elephants don't eat rhinos. It was just a fighting situation. And it was a mother, and they then rescued the baby and put that in a farm, so they are taking care of it. But yes, that can happen. Nature is relentless. So you have to make sure that you don't get killed, period.
Yeah, we as humans, we take ourselves way too serious.
Yeah.
If you look at it at the bigger picture, we have weapons and everything, but so that's like if you look at evolution, that's the only way how we could survive is like finding things which give us an advantage. So and our brain, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, that part of the brain that does that never evolved. It is the same as it was thousands of years ago. The neocortex, the newer part of the brain, is constantly evolving, and even like you can even make your own brain grow more because of like the hippocampus. If you put a lot of information into it, it can grow, and you don't have to be scared that your skull is going to explode, because the brain will fold itself back in itself. That is why it has all these little gorgeous wrinkles. But yeah, that newer part of the brain can always grow. The old part doesn't evolve. It is the thing that will keep you from, walking over the edge of a canyon. You can try that. There is this gorgeous movie, I think it's on YouTube. It is called The Tower, where people are trying to jump off a 10-meter tower into a pool. And if you just watch their feet, it is absolutely amazing, because your feet, even if you want to go, and even if you just want to walk off and jump, your feet are going to be the ones to stop you. And you cannot do it unless you're like super determined. And then some people are really, if you watch that movie, it's so funny, are really trying to outmaneuver their own feet by walking funny or by jumping or by just running, which is the only way that you can do it, unless you have like this soldier-like intention. But just normal people like myself, for example, if your feet are walking towards that edge, your feet will literally stop you. And that is the old part of the brain trying to keep you safe, which is also a problem sometimes, because that part, for example, doesn't know that if you are trying to do a new thing, for example, call a new client, do a new presentation, this time instead of 20 people, you will have 2,000 people. That is the part of the brain that will tell you, no. So, because if this is the part of the brain that if you have a house, like a roof over your head and clothes on you and something to eat, and you might possibly, procreate, good, let's keep it like that. Anything to alter this state is danger, and let's not do it. This is where stage fright comes from. This is where blackouts, shaking hands, shaking knees, and all that hoo-ha comes from, because that's the part of your brain that is trying to stop you from doing anything new ever. Because, if it works, let's keep it like that. It's only there to have you survive and not to strive.
But you can overcome it. You can
Absolutely.
control it.
Yes, you can.
And I think that's the hard part, and that's where you come into play, right?
Yes, it is that part. Well, the thing is, even just knowing that this is the mechanism, even just knowing that, for example, if you have stage fright before a presentation, or if you are super nervous, that it doesn't mean that you are not good enough, not prepared enough, not talented, that people don't want to see you. It's just your brain informing you that you are doing something new, period. It's not more than that. And this information alone may change the whole way that you look at this, because so many people get nervous and then they're like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. No, it's just you have a brain. Congratulations, go anyway. After the first 2 steps on stage, you're going to be much safer. And then, of course, there is a million things that you can do to prepare so well that you are going to feel at home.
For me, it was always getting my first 2 sentences
Yes.
in. It didn't matter how big the stage was.
Yes.
So I've never felt lost. That was my anchor.
Yes.
Like my first 2 sentences, and then the rest just flows,
And if you have to learn those by heart just to get them out, so be it. I mean, I always prefer for people to speak, of course, freely and not learn the entire thing by heart, because if you're not really, really good, or an actor who has to memorize their lines, you will hear it. But if you have to memorize your first 2 lines, or like the intro and the outro, because that is basically what people will remember. They will remember the beginning and they will remember the end. Those are like the biggest parts, and the in-between is like maybe 40%. If it's good, then they will know it's good, but the biggest impression is at the beginning and the end. So you need to get those right, and then you have to have certain little, chapters of your talk where okay, after this comes that, and then you'll be safe.
Super interesting. And so if someone says, I want to learn more about it, where can they find you?
They can find me online. It will sound funny, but really one of the easiest ways to get to me is through Instagram. Because
what's your Instagram? I will put it in here.
It's called Claudia Dalchow official. Well, you just link it and then you will see. And this is really an easy way you can connect to me. First of all, you will see all the different things and projects that I'm doing, which is also maybe interesting for you. And also you can just drop me a private message and there you go.
And you can teach in German, English, French?
Well, I preferably in German and English, but I can understand French as well. So if I have a French person, then yes, maybe the.
No, you play in French, right? You have a whole.
Yes, but I have
show
to.
You do in French.
Yes, I do a theater show in French. I play Sartre in French. The thing is, though, the text of this play is on pages and I memorize it and then I perform it, but then teaching is a different story. But of course, if there is a French person who needs help and we can do it a little bit in French and some in English, then and we have a little more time for explanations, then yes, in French as well, and Spanish.
One more topic I really wanted to talk to you about is Africa.
Yes.
You just mentioned Africa, you mentioned Namibia.
Yes.
We had that conversation 2-3 days ago because Veronica and I, we've been in Uganda at almost the same time.
At exactly the same time.
And it was quite an experience, right?
Oh my goodness.
What did you do in Namibia?
So my good friend, Jana Marie Backhaus-Torres, lives there and works, among other things, she's an actress as well, but she also works as a hospital clown. So that is a person who will go into hospitals or orphanages and perform or play with children who are in a certain state of need or crisis or, well, not in a very happy state. And then if a clown comes in or a person who is performing, in our case, when I went there, we went as 2 Christmas elves, all dressed up, decked out, and we had presents and we played with them. We performed like a Christmas theater piece that she wrote specifically for this occasion. And in certain care centers, we just went and just played with the children and just spent time with them, gave them a lot of hugs and some small little presents, like tiny little things, like a little ball or some crayons. It's amazing how happy they are about even the smallest gifts, because some of them never got a gift for themselves, like to their own. It's even, I went over my birthday, which was on the 9th of December, and I went there on the 7th, and on my birthday, we wrapped 81 little gift packages to take to the hospital the next day, and the children were so happy because honestly, some of them have never unwrapped a present in their entire life, so it was so special to do this. And it's amazing, like, children I mean, you cannot compare a children hospital like in Katatora, which is like a little bit of a poorer part of town of Windhoek, or next to it. Well, I'm being geographically probably completely incorrect here, but it is, well, a part of Windhoek, and it's more towards the poorer part of the town, and a little across, well, if you go a little further out, then you will be right in the middle of the townships, which is just like these metal huts where people also live. And if you come to the children ward of this hospital and you come out of the elevator, you will see, for example, for me, it was like this, even this first impression that the number 7 on a little, well, the plastic 7 was kind of glued to the wall with some tape. And that basically described the state of it. It wasn't so bad.
We're talking a hospital, right?
We're talking of a hospital. So something that is kind of glued to the wall with tape to mark what floor you're on. The rooms itself, I mean, some had beds, some didn't. Some just had mattresses on the floor. And mostly the parents were with their child kind of in the same bed, or the child was by themselves. And you saw really everything. I mean, we saw children that were burned head to toe, or like had all 4 limbs broken, or you could see that they had a brain tumor, like every kind of severe illness you can possibly imagine. Not contagious, because that's another part of the hospital, so you don't have to be afraid that you will, I don't know, catch some illness or a disease or something. But really children in a sad state sometimes. And then we come in our funny, beautiful little costumes, all cheery, and just be with them. And you have to be strong and sensitive at the same time. Strong because you will feel like crying, but in this, well, not while you're performing, but certainly afterwards, while you are in it, you are just out with them, with your energy. You're all like with the children. And afterwards, when you come out of the hospital and you leave it, kind of shut the door behind you, and you want to have done so much more, that's when the tears usually come, which is something that I'm sure you have experienced yourself. But also, every child is in a different state and needs something else. So some just needed us to throw a ball back and forth with them for like 10 minutes, and some needed us to sing with them, and some needed us to just hold their hand, and some needed us to make them laugh. And, you know, and also the parents, everybody wanted something different. Some just wanted the sweets, some wanted a hug. Like we literally just walked out of the elevator and the first 2 children just flew at us and just hugged us really tight. It was really, really heartwarming and heart-wrenching all at the same time.
There was one thing we definitely experienced as well is it felt like a lack of love.
Yes.
Because there is nobody. It's just like the orphanage we work with is basically, there's one guy, he's 26 years old. I recorded an interview. By the way, I will put that here in the show notes. And also at the info card, you can see it over here. Watch that video. And this guy, he's 26 years old. He thinks he's 26 years old because he grew up on the streets. And he's taken care of like 120 kids. And he's doing an amazing job. But he cannot give so much love to 120 kids. No. He's like a father, but at the same time, like a manager.
Yeah.
And when we came, they stormed us. They took our hands. They pulled us to a big area where they were singing for us. And
Same.
And they wrote like special songs for us with our names in it, and it was so cute.
And they were singing in the rain, right?
Exactly. And I said, "Hey, get off the rain," and they said, "No, rain is blessing."
Right. This is the best weather possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, especially when they say, at least in Uganda, they say when there's sun and rain at the same time, that's the best what can happen, and that's like
and there's a rainbow.
Exactly. So that's like the most positive fortune telling situation it can be. So. But it's weird. Like as a Western, you can't imagine if you don't see it with your own eyes.
No, you can't. You really cannot imagine what it looks like. I mean, the last performance that we did, I mean, every performance was so different. I mean, one was literally right next to the street. I mean, there was the house of a woman who had adopted, I think, 12 orphans and was taking care of them and raising them all by herself. And she had a house, and in front was a little porch, and then there was a little space where the children could sit, and we played on the porch, and then right next to it was the street. Cars passing and neighbors kind of hanging on the fence looking in, and then we gave them some sweets and toys as well because, well, they were there, so we're not going to exclude them. But it was really in the middle of the street. And then another part was the last performance that we did was in a kind of a care center where they feed 800 children every day. And so we performed really in the sunshine because the only shade there was for some children to sit. I think 200 about who watched the performance, who watched the play. But after the play was finished, then hundreds of more children came because it was lunchtime. And then we went into the soup kitchen and saw there were 2 people giving out food for like all these hundreds of children. And we're like, we can't go now. We just have to stay and help. So I found myself after performing in 34 degrees sun with the costume, corset and everything in a soup kitchen that was even warmer, and then just pouring soup like for, I don't know, another hour and a half.
And they cook on fire, right? That's
yes.
the thing. There's like
yes,
all smoky inside.
I mean, not inside this little place, but it was warm in there because you also had another 100 kids sitting there waiting. And the thing that struck me most was they only had like, I don't know, 50 plates. And so the first children had to finish eating and then go outside, have the plates washed, bring them back in so the next children can eat. And then all the children that were waiting outside, and one girl fainted because it was too long of a wait and she was hungry and the sun was hot and it was just, she was exhausted. And that was the one time that we came out and we were sobbing in the car because we couldn't take it. And then the next day we went. Thankfully, we had some wonderful people who were donating because we were asking for donations and a lot came in. And so the next day we went to a supermarket and we bought like 140, 150 plates plus spoons and brought them back to the care center. And that you have to be aware of every little detail. They had to be plastic plates. And people are like, why do you use plastic? Well, because it has to be unbreakable, last forever, and also it cannot be metal because imagine the noise if 50 or 100 children eat from metal plates, you would go bananas. So it has to be plastic, and it's crazy the things that you have to take into account.
If you have been there, then you start wondering the thought processes of many people. Like we, for example, we also talk to some people who are not into it at all. That's something what drives me crazy, right? So you do something good, you go there, you spend your time, your energy, and then some smart asses try to tell you what they think what would be better, you know? But for example...
That's like parenting, right?
Yeah.
So people who have never had a kid are trying to tell you how to parent your child? I don't think so. Like,
exactly.
have one and then let's talk again.
As you just said with the plastic, or we talked to someone who says, yeah, but they need to eat more healthy. Let's try to feed them vegan. I said, what the fuck? They don't even have bread. What do you want? Give them, we're just happy we can give them something, you know? Before, when they haven't had food, they were literally drinking tea and putting some sugar inside just to keep like saturated. And for right now, since we're taking care of them since June, I think, last year, so 7 months in now, they have like 2 meals a day, which is
amazing.
Yeah, but for us, imagine like a Western only get 2 meals a day.
Listen,
you know,
for example, the gifts that we brought to our children. Do you know at IKEA you have this ball pit with all these hundreds of thousands of balls and kids jump around in it, and then if you go to, I don't know, some big shopping center, you can buy a bag full of those balls and make your own little ball pit at home if you want to. So some people do it on seminars and have a good old time with it. We bought like one of these bags, and every child, because that's something that you can easily do, got one of those balls. They were the happiest. You know, they could play soccer with them, they could throw them around and they could play with them or exchange colors or God knows what, or even a thing like a box of crayons, like to color something. You cannot give 200 children a box of crayons each. So what we did was we bought a bunch of boxes of crayons, but then we took like 4 out and made sure they were all different colors and hues so that they didn't get like black, gray, and brown, but like, I don't know, brown with turquoise and pink and yellow or something. It cannot always be like yellow, green, red, blue like you would want to, but we made sure that they were nice and different colors and put a lollipop in there and a little chewy sweet, and then we wrapped this in a present, and that was the best. They were so happy about that. And in the Western world, a child is going to get like a crying fit or throw a tantrum because they don't get the new iPhone. It's like the contrast is so crazy. But what infuriated me was really that it's not like there isn't any money in the country, but then the government is corrupt or other people just don't care.
The whole continent. Like, I mean, you're talking Namibia, I'm talking Uganda, but I also have many friends in Kenya. It's the same thing in each country.
It's so much corruption and there is nothing you can do. And what I find most shocking, if you talk about colonialism and then this contrast between, I don't know, rich white and poor black, to be like super, you know, talking in keywords here, like don't stone me for it, but, you know, it's a kind of an image that you may have, but
in my podcast you can say anything.
Okay, well, goody. And
we're not about political correctness.
And it's also about hashtag facts. The thing is, then you think like maybe the white people are not really interested in helping, you know, poorer people of the country that they live in. But no, it's the people of the same race, that the ones that have somehow made it to have some money, who are not only not interested, but who treat their own really like shit. I'm sorry. And it's like, these people live right next to you. They work in your home. And there was this one moment where my friend, they have a really wonderful nanny. I mean, she is the cutest, and both parents are working, and sometimes, and she takes such good care of their little girl, and she's such a sweet lady, and she's studying, and she's really trying to make something out of herself. But literally, when she got her monthly salary, and she got it in cash because for some reason she couldn't open an account, we had to drive her home just to make sure that she gets there safely with all this money. And it's like, ugh. And like also another moment where just my stomach just cramped was, we were in a care center with a few hundred children, and then sometimes they will come up to you and take your hand and say, "What is your name?" And then of course I will ask them, "And what is your name?" And there was what seemed to be a little boy, you know, in a shirt and some little short pants and some sneakers and a little baseball cap. And then she said, Madeline. And I thought, wow, smart thinking probably, that you dress like a little boy and have your hair short, because if you looked at her face, she was so pretty. But then again, she lives in a township. And I'm like, and as sad as this sounds, I'm like, you know what? It's probably smart that you look more like a little boy than a girl. And that is the most terrible thing to say. But those little moments are like when you think, ugh, why can't a child not just be safe on this damn planet with all the money that goes around? And also, like, when we were asking for donations, I have a lot of friends where I know they have a lot to go around, and I know their living situation, the cars that they drive, and the food that they eat. And I just thought, like, guys, if you just like 50 euros, that's like a sneeze for you. Over there, you can feed a few hundred children for a week with this amount of money. It's like, what are you doing? Not helping. Like, how can you possibly not? Seeing all the pictures. I mean, if I had just asked them just so, I would understand. But we posted so many pictures and videos and showed what we were seeing firsthand. And some people cried looking at the pictures and yet did nothing. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like,
but I have to admit, for me, it was the same thing. So my wife, actually, she got into the whole charity project like a year ago, 1.5 years ago already.
Yeah.
And it's for her, it was always a thing out of her heart because it has to do with her past. She didn't grow up very wealthy.
Yeah.
So, and she always wanted to give back. I supported her, but I've never really called it my thing until I was there and have seen it myself. So I have to say, even for me, like, because, you know, when I was a little kid, I mean, that's the same thing with everybody. You don't eat all the food from your plate, and then you hear, in Africa, children don't have food. And, you know, as a kid, you say, like, I don't give a fuck because I'm not an African child. But when you have been there and you really see, for us, for example, we had like Christmas dinner with them. But Christmas dinner meant they got 2 slices of bread, you know, like white bread. For them, it was the biggest party ever because usually on a good day, they divide 1 slice of bread by 4. And everybody gets a little piece, you know?
Wow.
It's incredible. And for us, we just go to the supermarket, pay like whatever, 80 cents, get a whole bag of toast, you know?
Yeah.
And can eat whatever we want. Or we go to the fridge. We never starve. And what we did, so we ate with them, which meant like we traveled for 5 days and we had our friend Aipo, who is the guy I just mentioned, the 26-year-old. We had another guy, his name is Richard. He also leads a community, a former orphanage kid who took responsibility now for 100-something kids.
Wow.
And we traveled with them and we lived their lifestyle. And then you're like, it's you eat 1 time a day, you know, and then me, exactly. And for them, it was like when we said, hey, let's go to a restaurant. They said, I don't know, that restaurant is only for rich people. And we're like, that restaurant cost us whatever, like 15 euros for 6 people, you know? And it's for the rich people because they're used to rice and chicken only eating with fingers, you know?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's a different world. And I'm so happy we do that kind of work now. And we already have friends now in those countries.
Yes.
And it's so much fun.
I mean, apparently, if you have some kind of organization where you don't know where the money is going to, or you do that first.
I have a cat allergy.
That's okay. I'm just going to start that again. Apparently, if you have some organization where you don't know the person that you give the money to, or you don't know what they do with the money, then, and you cannot see the effect of your help firsthand, then I understand that you will probably think twice or 3 times, because of course some people will tell you the most important thing is to clean up the ocean, which is something that I also do, or the most important thing is to educate people in other things, I don't know, which is something that we also do. We're literally doing a lot, but every person will tell you that their project or their charity is the most important one, and then you might not exactly know what you're doing. But in case of us or you, people can really see that if they help and support, then they will know exactly what happens, because there is no like in between organization that is going to swallow up a whole bunch of money just by like organizational things, because it goes there directly. For example, we had one friend, Melanie Ziefert. She donated one time, and then she saw our videos from that last care center with 800 children, where we were trying to, like, you have 2 plates in your hands and you're like, which child to give them to, because there's 50 sitting there, and it was a matter of not enough plates being there. And she said, I could not, I just had to donate one more time. And so with this specific money, we went and bought all those plates and spoons the next day, like specifically, and gave that, and it made like it halved the problem.
You know, one big problem, especially here in Germany or in I think in many other Western countries where you pay taxes, people only donate to deduct from taxes. And we had that so many times. Okay, I would like to give some money, but can you give me a tax bill, invoice, whatever?
Really though, if you go to a restaurant and spend like 50 euros, do you want like a tax bill for that? Like, come on now, get over yourself already. I had the same problem. I had the exact same problem, and then I said, okay, if you donate on Facebook, then Facebook will give you like a thing. And then they said, but no, I wanted to donate a bigger amount. And I was just like, you know what, then just do it. Like, how much taxes are you going to save? 20 bucks, 30, if you want to donate, I don't know, 500 euros, and you don't save those 30 euros of taxes, or even if you want to donate 50 and you don't save that 5 or 10 euros of taxes, well, so be it. You did something good. But no, then people don't donate at all. I'm like, that's a lost opportunity, because we just had this hashtag, which is not created by me, but it kept popping up over and over, which is just living as giving. You know, and it was, you cannot imagine how good it feels if you really go and do something and not just talk about it. Because if you actually, I mean, I don't expect everybody to travel to Namibia. Not every person is made for this, or to Uganda. It takes a lot of strength to do this. But like, just knowing that you contributed to something that your best friend maybe organizes, and you see something good coming from it, I mean, what better feeling could there be?
Let me wrap that one up with one story I particularly was part of in Uganda, which for me changed a lot, because honestly, I learned a lot from that 26-year-old guy. Mm-hmm. And I mean, talking from my perspective, being someone who goes to seminars since a few years and spending whatever tens of thousands of dollars worldwide to learn, to get a bigger mindset. So this guy, he has no shoes. Okay, he literally lives in a little hut, like the houses for those kids he built with his own hands. 60 kids living in a shack, literally, and he sleeps in the storage, because he says this is for the kids. So he has a mattress in the storage room, then he has some plastic bags above him, whatever. Amazing guy. So he has no shoes. I bought some hiking shoes because it's rainforest, basically. So I went there and I see this guy walking with flip-flops everywhere. So I say, what's your shoe size? And it turns out he has the same size like me. So I said, you know what? I give you my shoes. There was a little, there were like some piece ripped off, so we needed to fix it. So I gave them to him. And he said, let me go to the shoe guy and I'll be back. So like 15, 20 minutes later, he comes back, has the shoe on, has the biggest smile on his face ever. He says, it's the first time I have shoes in my life. You know, and they're waterproof. I didn't know they're waterproof. They just told me. Like, I will not have wet feet anymore. And he was so excited. And I'm like, where are your flip-flops? He said, oh, I just gave it to the other guy. I said, but Aipo, you only have like 2 pair of shoes. And he says, yeah, but the other one had no shoe at all. Yeah. And so he was walking on tires. He took an old like tire, for like a car tire, and made a shoe out of it. So he said, no, this guy is super happy because I could give him my flip-flops. And I said, but Aipo, I still don't get it. I mean, you only have 1 pair now. He said, listen, one thing which you learn on the streets is you're never too poor to give. And Amen. that was the sentence of the whole trip. And that's something I would wish from people listening to that podcast. Yeah. What we're going to do is We're going to put like your charities and our charities, everything in the show notes with links.
Yeah.
And if anyone feels like, yes, I want to do something, feel free to donate.
Yeah.
Yes, it will be anonymous. We will not do big shout outs. It's just from the bottom of your heart. If you really want to make a change and want to do something.
And honestly, if you donate a bunch of cash and you want a big shout out, we can do a shout out. Not a problem. Like, honestly, if it's that what keeps you from it, we can do that as well. And the thing is, it is so interesting that you should say that, because it's something that I always say. If you have something to give, you have some kind of abundance. You have some kind of more than your essentials to live. If there is anything that you can share, then you are rich. And you know, it doesn't matter if you really make hundreds of thousands of euros a year, or if you, I don't know, if you barely make ends meet, but if you're giving, it means that you're rich. So that is something to consider.
I think that's the perfect sentence to wrap up the podcast.
Yes.
It was a pleasure having you on.
Thank you very much for having me.
Not the last time, for sure. And hopefully you come visit us in Dubai pretty soon.
Yes, I hope so too.
And have a great... How you say that in English? Like get into the new year? Or,
New Year's Eve?
You know, in Germany we have that funny saying. So
where
we
you
say
can
like
slide
into it. Is there an English saying for it? I have no idea.
I don't know. I don't think so. But I also prefer not to slide or kind of fall into the new year, but to like walk graciously or like jump, skip, and dance into the new year.
Okay, let's keep it short. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
And to 2020, and let's make big things happen next year.
Yes, sir.